Live. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
All right. So, welcome to Blossoming. Happy Wednesday, everybody. We're almost there to the weekend. So tonight we're going to be talking about the absolutely phenomenal play Warrior's Blood by Mr. Valdez here. And we've got a couple of people that have helped us along the way with this beautiful production. My name is Brittany S. Wheeler, and thank you so much for joining us. And those wonderful people that are here, if they can introduce themselves, I know there's so many of you. Ladies first.
Okay. My name is Bree Ely, and I play Kamiko in this fabulous production, She, Hers.
Yay.
My name is Joseph Valdez, and I wrote this thing.
He wrote this thing. It's fantastic. Absolutely beautiful work. Congratulations to both of you guys. So I'm just going to jump on in. Let me see here. I got a whole bunch of little questions here. I guess this would be for Mr. Valdez. What was challenging about bringing the script to life?
Oh man, I mean this. Are you talking about just dramaturgically or
yeah,
in life?
Yeah, I'd love to know that part. I love dramaturgy, so I'm up for that.
I mean, listen, I had a very different vision of the play to start off. I was going to start with the baseball scene where Johnny and Grandpa are talking about the baseball scene, and I jumped into research, and the play came out a lot different than I expected. I did a lot of reading, interviewed a lot of beautiful, amazing people, and just that was kind of my process. Just and just being in the writers group with such amazing writers really lifted me up and helped lift the story up, I think. So challenges, it's just a massive piece. The challenge is, like taking all of that research and funneling it down to a story that makes sense. Right. And, hopefully, people won't fall asleep. I think, kind of tracking the different storylines, and I wanted to make sure that everybody had a voice and was whole and had something to fight for. And I think managing that without making it 4 hours was a challenge, because I love all of these characters, and I think the actors really brought it to life. Bree was amazing, and it's been great.
Yeah. So what made you want to bring the political aspect into the play?
Good question. So I actually wrote a short play that was very similar to this for the Native Voices. I think it was their 4th short play festival. Mm-hmm. It was inspired by my grandfather's war experience. And I had, Johnny was kind of an unemployed recovering alcoholic. Mm. And Angie was, makeup wearing, back talking school skipper, and I think that I just wanted to bring characters that uplifted the community, that represented the best of the community, because they're amazing. I've taught in South LA for about 10 years, and I've met so many amazing people, students, teachers, principals, parents, and I wanted to make sure that the best was represented. And it's funny, I was teaching, this must have been like 2 years ago, I was teaching 9th grade English, and I was teaching rhetoric, and I had like 5 English classes, and we were listening to I Have a Dream speech over and over and over and over, and just hit me. Johnny's a politician. He's gonna bring up the community, and I was like, I want Angie to be the top of the class. I want her to be the smartest person in the room, all of the time, every time. And that's kind of where that came from. And I felt that way for all of the characters. You know, Jordan is also smart, might be, you know, he's right up there with Angie in his own ways. And of course, you know, Kimiko runs the show. So,
That's right. So, Brie, this is for you.
Sure.
What was challenging about Kimiko? Did I have that
Sure. First, I have to talk about Joseph's t-shirt because that's amazing.
What is
Warriors. It's the Warriors.
Ah, my dad's favorite movie. Come out.
I saw that. I was like, what? And then I have to commend you because I really do feel like everybody does have such a different voice in this. And I'd never really thought about that rhythm and flow that is coming from each of them. And that's what the great thing is about how all these different like kind of glaciers collide with each other. But in terms of like the characters being at the top of their game, that means that you have to drive the entire time. And sometimes you get a character who's like really like laid back or something like that. But in this case, in every scene, and we talked about this, even though there's politics going on, there's a lot of heart behind it. And you have to keep that drive for the heart happening, even as you are pushing toward the things that you want. And so remembering to keep that drive up was also really important. Flowing through the language and passion of these characters is really important. We did a version of this. I was fortunate enough to be asked to be a part of a workshop that was maybe just a one night jam, we'll call it. That was at May or something. And I was like, wow, that was quite a night. Was that March?
I think it was March.
I mean, what is time at this
Maybe it's
point,
April.
right?
I don't know.
What is time? But it was such a like powerhouse, like everyone just like came in like ready with their teeth to like just to devour the script. Yes. And then what happens across like, let's say a workshop of a week, which because of scheduling became even longer, it was like, now we really get to go in and like take it bite by bite by bite and look for those opportunities to let the heart sing, to let the passion sing. And you have to, the challenge is to not try to rush past that, not try to rush past the things that might feel pain or that would challenge you and still keep diving in. That's a process that we don't always get in the business. Sure. So that was a welcome challenge.
That's fabulous.
Long answer, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. It's so much fun as an actor to be able to really sit in another character's pain. Mm-hmm. And be able to, you know, kind of pull from your own experience, of course, we try to do with it as actors anyway, but it's just, it's a beautiful dance that you have to do with, you know what I mean? Like with being able to sit and what does this person want? What are they after? Who do they want it from? You know, all the good theater 101 questions and things like that. So what brought you both to the vagrancy and blossoming?
A couple years ago, and way back in the end of 2016, I did a show, did Macbeth with them. And I loved the company. I love Caitlin. I loved what they were doing. It was such a fun experience. And then it's like, oh, they're doing a writers group and I want to write a little bit more. I've been saying that I was going to write this thing and been talking since the beginning of the pandemic, how I was going to write something. And all of a sudden it's, August and still didn't have anything. And I was like, probably won't get in, but I'll just put an application in and was lucky enough to be selected.
Fabulous.
I was brought in by Kat Bondi. She and I did a program at, I was right after I graduated from college. It was up at Bard for the summer. And it was a whole retreat for a week looking at site-specific performance and working on non-traditional views of like working on plays. And we were all in the same group and we just stayed in touch. And so she like reached out and was like, hey, I think here's the email if your schedule could work. So that was my introduction. It's been a fun ride.
All right.
Yeah.
We were very lucky.
Yeah, my goodness, beautiful. Bree, if you could play any other character, I love asking this for actors.
Ooh.
If you could play any other character in this show, male or female, what
Hmm.
would you play?
Well, I've got a little Angie already, so it wouldn't be that hard to play that. I think it would be a trip to play grandpa. You know, like to be on, because he comes in at the start, you know, as this young, you know, optimistic,
Mhm.
I can't wait to get back to you. And then he goes through the war and now he's carrying those scars. And then he's like playing between like present and what could be the future on the other side. Like that would be a trip.
Absolutely.
I'd play
What
grandpa.
about you, Joseph? If you could play one of your own characters, how would that be? How would that be for you?
Well, you know, I wrote this in mind with Johnny in mind for me. Although, you know, seeing Jake do his thing, man, it's just like, all right, well, maybe I'm gonna go into retirement.
I'm telling you.
But I think like Bree said, Grandpa presents the most wild ride
Yeah.
because there's so many you know, just juxtapositions of like one time he's remembering that his son has died at a very young age, and the next moment he's singing songs and dancing, and then all of a sudden hits a trigger with one of the songs and can't see the love of his life, who he expected to wait on the other side for him. I think that would present an amazing, challenging journey for any actor.
Yeah. There's something about, we talked about this in rehearsal, when you're close to the other side and like the solemnness that has to be in the room, that, you know, someone is almost there. I think of grandpa, he's like the King Lear of this thing. Like he's dealing with all the elements at the same time, and there's no filter as to what's going to come in when it does. So I can only imagine how delicious that would be for an older actor to get to jump into.
Oh, yeah, because it's just those roles just aren't there. You know what I mean? Well, there's one, but you know what I mean? But there's just so the potential is just so exciting. It's so exciting to have something like that. Let me see. So we all know because of COVID and being stuck in our houses, sometimes alone and sometimes with other people, how, as an actor and as a writer, how were you able to translate this story to Zoom? How was that a challenge for you guys as a team?
Well, I mean, I do feel like if anything, we're becoming more aware of how to use the camera, whether it's like getting it a little closer, looking to the side, like you start to develop little tricks and better understandings of how to like work the frame. But there's also a scale for the theater that I think the emotions need, the diction needs, the way that you like form alliteration or a you know, a little, you know, consonant sandwich. It has to be hit. And then you have to figure out how to like scale that so that you're not overwhelming the viewer, but you still want to make sure you honor the fact that it's been put together in this way. So
it's a lot.
I don't know if it always works, but it's definitely like been an adjustment.
Absolutely.
I mean, you know, my vision for this thing is obviously pretty large. And I was curious how it would work on Zoom. And I just think, honestly, hiring amazing people, talented people who are passionate, I mean, in any setting, you know, we figure it out. And I felt like, you know, this process from beginning to end has been arduous, but there's resilience in the process. And, you know, even, you know, superstar Bree was, you know, booking everything she went out for, which is awesome. Love it. And you know, other people in the cast were booking. Jake is in New York, you know, but you just hire the right people, and sometimes that's all you need.
Magic happens.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think, Liz Francis can't be here. She is on a plane right now, but she also helped me see things that I didn't realize were there, and really helped make things rich. And because she's such a talented actor, both on the screen and on the stage, I felt like she really helped the process for me personally.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, shout out to Liz. I think she also, for the fact that we weren't in the same room, same space, she really tried to facilitate connections between us so that there's some kind of tether, even though you're not in the same zone, and literally not even the same time zone,
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that relationship work that we did really shined.
That's beautiful. So we've got some comments, and I think that Liz said, "Congrats, Mr. Valdez, on the wonderful play. Yay." And Heather Graviet, I hope I'm saying your name right. As a viewer, the Zoom translated well. I felt very drawn into the story. So you guys did something right.
Yeah.
That's exciting. That's very exciting. Why did you want to honor your grandfather?
Well, I mean,
besides the obvious.
I think there is something that I've always felt, and I didn't realize it till late, about in Native communities, there's something about survival.
Yeah.
And there's something, I've seen a lot of our family go through some pretty crazy things.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking as a kid, just like, we always figure out a way to survive.
Right.
And I wanted to explore the DNA of survival. I wanted to jump in there and swim around and see what it was about. And I think, growing up, I think in terms of my nativeness, I learned, I grew up in Sacramento. I didn't grow up in New Mexico. My grandparents were from New Mexico. And I kind of learned a lot about being Native from like the Title IX program from the American Indian Education Act, and very rudimentary things. And when I started doing Native theater, I just became so much more aware of the trauma, and the intergenerational trauma, and in doing so, kind of learned about myself and my own family. And then I started to discover things in my own family that kind of made things make sense. And so, the idea that my grandfather was able to go through hedgerow warfare, get shot in the head, survive, be captured by the Germans, interrogated, survive, run back, given a cup of coffee, go to England for a month, then back on the front lines in Germany and still survive, and knowing that if he didn't, I wouldn't be here, my dad wouldn't be here, my daughter wouldn't be here, a whole, lineage of people. I always say, my grandpa went to war, captured by the Germans, shot in the head, was so excited to be back. He had 14 kids. He did.
That's epic.
And so I was doing a show in San Jose, kind of, I was playing a soldier in Afghanistan, and I was there, and I would walk around the block, just to kind of warm up in the mornings and make sure my head was on straight. And I would listen to Kendrick Lamar's DNA, and I would just be like, man, I feel it, man. I like, in a different way, like I want to jump into that DNA and see what's there. And so, I kind of did a deep dive into my own, you see a lot of things from myself in there. I won't say what. And I did a lot of, reading, and, like there's a book called Legacy by Suzanne Methot, which talks about CPTSD and among Native communities, and read a Mind Spread on the Ground by Alicia Elliott, who's from Six Nations. And it's weird because you read these things and like you connect, even though, that's on, Alicia Elliott's Six Nations was on the East Coast on Canada and the US border, like there were certain things like, man, like I feel this, I know this somehow. And so that's kind of what inspired me, is just kind of the survival and what it takes to survive, and not only survive, but what does it take to thrive? What does it take to, all that trauma that sometimes we don't even know we have, that we carry. How do we acknowledge that? How do we deal with that and learn how to thrive?
Exactly. I was just going to say that it's been very illuminating, more and more, seeing more of these different types of stories being written and being done, because I don't think we get enough. We don't get enough stories of our Native peoples, and they don't get the spotlight that they deserve. And I think we as Americans need to make some room, especially since this isn't our country in the first place. So why not? And I'm so grateful for this piece, because I want to know more. I found myself wanting to know so much more, not just, about the characters, of course, but in your family, but just all of our Native people's stories, because my goodness, the things that they've had to endure and the things that they've had to go through just to survive and continue on today, and to still have their identity, somewhat intact, that a lot hasn't been taken from enough that we can appreciate them, and respect them as we should. So I just wanted to say that how grateful I am for that, because they're just not getting enough. I wanted more. I wanted a lot more.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's a lot of amazing Native artists out there, writers that are doing incredible work.
Yes.
Native Voices here in Los Angeles, it has been a home for me, and they just got through with their festival, and they're amazing. And there's really starting to be nationally more Native work being done, and it's really, really exciting to see. And
investment in the work, because it's one thing to say, oh, we should have it, but if you're not creating a space for it. And very funny sidebar, I work part-time with an interior designer. She's been the most flexible boss of all time, because obviously it's more of a suggestion of a job than like a real job. But she's on the board of the Archery Museum. And that was my first introduction to Native Voices. And I was like, oh, and then to see that these little overlaps are fantastic. I'm like, ooh, yes, create that space, fund that space, produce that work. Because we don't want to just see it go there. We want to see it on the stage. You want to see like an audience investing across a run, across a season. I actually watched the trailer before we started tonight. And this idea of survival and trauma, I think were like two of the words that I used as like how I might describe this play. Mm-hmm. And what is the risk that happens when you try too hard to survive without recognizing your trauma? When you try too hard to push things down. And that's what happens between Johnny and Angie, because there's been so much of like, I got to get over it. I've got to make it through. I've got to just push things down, that then I'm ignoring my own history. I'm cutting out a piece of me that you really need to be able to like even go through the next day.
Anything.
Yes. Exactly. You can't just like cut it out. It's still there. So just having that idea be out to explore and get into, I hope will shift someone's day after watching this.
Yes. And it's oh, go ahead. I'm so sorry.
Well, I will say a lot of this play is about coping mechanisms, the way we use humor, the way we use, the different things, anger, ignoring, working really hard, to be the best, it's a lot of it is a lot about coping mechanisms and how we survive, for sure.
And it was interesting how many things had resonated for me as a Black woman as well. When we talk about, you know, how we could feel that pain, you know, no matter how far back it goes. And it struck me how many things so many of us have in common when it comes to our treatment as people of color. And that it's a beautiful thing to look back and honor those that have come before us and have been through some things that we could not even imagine that we could go through, but to also bring them with us as we move forward. And I think that's a really important thing for us to do is, you know, don't forget, you know, but don't stay there. Don't stay, you know, really, really.
Not lost on me that this workshop happened across Juneteenth and Father's Day. You know, these are moments of reckoning for history, but also for families. And this play just like breathes in both of them in a really lovely way.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Brie, how was it doing these scenes with someone who wasn't in the room with you? I love actors that.
Well, because of the way that Zooming life has happened for auditioning over these last couple of months, you get a little used to having to fake it. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes, let's be real, you get it with an actor on set and they're not really there either. So you might have to fake it then. But thankfully, even though we weren't in the same place, there was that tether, you know, we discussed that those relationships were there and we had fun for it being such a like sometimes dark and sad and challenging subject. I had fun. I looked forward to like getting on and like seeing where we were going to go and trying new things. And I look forward to being in a room. I'd love to be around a table when it's all safe and that there's time and space for that. But at least the work isn't stopping.
Right.
Like the need to tell a story, to be a part of a story is one of man's first things they did, you know? So we're continuing that tradition.
Yep. Theater will go on no matter what. We're going to do it.
Right.
Absolutely.
But in a room. And with an audience. Oh man, I was just saying how much I miss people laughing. I miss people like hearing like a breath or like a, you know, when someone walks through the door and there's a reveal. Come on, that's delicious. That's so good.
Never thought I was coughing.
That immediacy is not something you can recreate. And even on set, sometimes, you know, when people have had a long day and you get that one gaffer who's like, huh, you're like, yes, I got a reaction. But when you're on Zoom, you don't necessarily have that time. And then also I think what happens within the Zoom world is that you also want to leave space for someone to catch up to the emotion, to catch up to the laughter of it. So you're also maybe in a way trying to leave room for the audience to be in it with you while you're still keeping your pace, keeping your life up.
Yeah.
But it'll be fun back in the room.
Yes, it
Watch
will.
out.
Yes. Joseph, did you find anything new about yourself in this process?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. One of the cool things was I felt like I got to learn a little bit more about my grandparents, you know, because I did a deep dive and had a really cool conversation with my godfather, my uncle, in Sacramento, who actually made the journey from New Mexico to California with him, and my cousin who lived with my grandparents through a large chunk of his childhood, and you know, like my grandfather was a sheep shearer, and I played a sheep shearer for 4 years, and I had no idea. You know,
when, how, where?
Well, so there's this California's outdoor play up in Hemet. They do a 3-week show called Ramona, and so yeah, I played a sheep shearer there named Alessandro. And so like, just like things like that, it's like, wow, like it was really cool. And I feel like I just loved, I mean, I had so many rich conversations with so many people who I love, and, you know, from former students to fellow artists, you know, Native sisters, you know, family members. And I read so many, I read a lot of books. I wouldn't say so many, but, and just, I felt like I learned, so much about trauma and how we cope with trauma. And I recognized myself in a lot of that. And I think that helps me, you know, personally. It helps me as a husband, it helps me as a father, and as a human, and as a writer. And I'm thankful for that. And I feel like, you know, learning to just push through, you know, from the very beginning. You know, I had to start this play later than everybody else because I was sick for a couple of weeks. And then, you know, through the process of writing, catching up, and then, you know, my wife just finished med school, and she matched in a different city. So we had to pick up our whole family and move to a different city. And I had to help these, you know, these seniors graduate, you know, who were doing school on Zoom. And so there's so many things, but just to push through and know that I'll get it done. And sometimes it was hard. But, you know, we did it. We did it.
My goodness.
We
Unbelievable.
did a couple rehearsals where he's in the room where it's like boxes. I was like, oh, those boxes making me nervous. Moving is no joke. That's
no, man. Tear down your life and put it back up again.
That's right. Isn't that the truth? Brie, what was a favorite moment for you as an actor with your character? What was a favorite moment of the play?
No, I really, really enjoyed getting to that scene with Grandpa. I think we had talked about, like, at that point in the play, she has had to get rid of this dream that she had for him to be a superstar, for her to be connected to a campaign that had that much passion behind it, but still be there for her friend, because that was the main thing. They were friends first. Right. To know that he's out running around while she's with his dying grandfather. And when his, like, you know, snippety daughter comes through, also recognizing that she's going through something and leaving space for the fact that the granddaughter is about to lose someone important to her. And we had done it once where I was like really like done with Angie. And then she was like, remember that this is someone that you've known for a long time too, and that he's about to go. And you are the one that's there with him. And to be in that room, to be trying to bring comfort and balance that with the fact that, you know, this young lady is snippety, but she's in pain, and like being able to balance all that inside. The next time we did it, I was like, yeah, but oh man. So I really appreciated that there was a moment to try and build all those layers, those given circumstances, and let them each kind of like just play. And then that was probably close to like Father's Day. My father passed away, and like to think about those times of when we were in that room and like how everyone's more quiet.
Yes.
And leave a little more space. No one's like chomping through with their heels or slamming doors.
Very reverent.
It's reverent. Yes. The reverence that has to be there. And it just like shifted. And that was in my house, in my hot apartment, but it felt like we were all there in the house at that time.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. It was a good times.
Yeah. A lot, but really rewarding, I think, huh?
Yeah. I mean, it'd be better if there was applause after, but I guess, no, just kidding.
Actors, but
you know, but yeah, I think even just to know that like we got through, and after, you know, we called her voice of God, Bree, who read our stage directions. When she says end of play, there was like this, like, we all needed to like take in a breath afterwards. And that was that was a rewarding way to end the process.
What about you, Joseph? What do you think? What was one of your favorite moments? I know you wrote the thing, but
I mean, I have many favorite moments. I think watching it, you know, I feel like I look at it and I see a lot of work to be done, but I think it landed better than I thought it would. And so I thought that was really meaningful. And I did you know, from that workshop or that one day reading we did in March, April, whenever it was, I did a lot of work on Angie. And I just thought that Shelby did a wonderful job in bringing that to life, and she bought in and really did some rich work, and I really enjoyed watching that, and I think that's probably my favorite thing, is just watching all the performances, because everybody bought in. You know, if people don't buy into this play, then we're screwed. I'm screwed. You know, like Liz would always talk about, if you lean into the sentimentality, then we're lost. You know, you got to lean into the humor, you got to lean into the coping mechanisms,
lean into the fight,
and into the fight. You got to know what you're fighting for, and you got to lean into the relationship and the love, and just I feel like everybody's performance, you know, they really brought it. They really bought in, and there was some rich dynamic work, and it's inspiring to see. I think that's my favorite thing.
Awesome. Joseph, what was, I know you did a lot of research and you spoke to a lot of people. What was one of your favorite conversations that you had that you will keep with you?
Man. I think, oh man, there's so many. I already spoke about the one with my cousin, and my cousin talked about my grandma spreading dirt in the living room. And I think he just texted me saying that he actually went to New Mexico to get some dirt. But I didn't get a chance to read the text message. I really enjoyed those conversations with my family, but I also really loved the conversations I had with some of my former students. They're just you know, like, I'm not that much older than them, but just like proud of where they are. Like, you know, Jordan is based off of several people, you know, well, a lot of people, like, you know, and I was thinking the other day, I was like, man, I think I wrote him too much as a freshman, and, you know, and he's really 11th grader, but I have an old student, Noe, and he's amazing. He's like, he has an organic panaderia that he bakes, like, you know, pan dulce and all of that stuff. I think it's vegan. He just created an organization in South LA to kind of uplift the community. You know, I have another student, Andrea, who, like, I was always inspired by, even as she was a student in my AP literature class. And I remember her, she was always like, she was a community advocate and organizer already as a high school student.
Wow.
And she was always like, I just remember her bringing in signs for like school to prison pipeline and all that stuff. And I remember being inspired. So it was really good to kind of connect with her, and I'm so grateful for the time that they spent. And I think, like, just checking back within was really good. And I want to make sure that, like ideally one day I hope to have this up in LA at a place where students can come in and watch this thing, because I find that when I take students to see the theater, it opens their heart and souls in ways that you just can't in the classroom. And especially when they're able to see themselves
That
on
part.
stage.
Yeah.
Because okay, I'm gonna tell you a story real quick. Like, I was thinking,
please. I'm like,
Caesar was worried. He was like, am I gonna say it? And I was like, yes. Whatever it is, it must be good.
And ninth grade English, and I was doing a show at Native Voices called Pure Native, and the principal was like, all right, you could do this show, but you have to take your students. I was like, oh, like in my head, I was like, oh man, these kids are gonna roast me. I'm gonna be done. I'm never gonna hear the end of this. And so I was like, all right. And so like I did a lot of prep work, and that's part of the rhetoric, and there was kind of a cross curriculum environment, and we did some native novels, and so I really prepped them, and I remember I brought them, and I remember sitting in the parking lot. I was like, you know what, like, I remember how inspired I was as a seemingly voiceless ninth grader who saw theater, was introduced to theater, was in theater, you know, and not just like diverse theater, you know, Chicano theater. And I was just like, all right, I'm going to give my heart. I'm going to open my heart, my soul, and I gave it everything I had. And those kids, man, they loved it. They loved it. You know, see five brown actors on stage, and I saw kids light up in ways that I had never seen them in the classroom. And so eventually I want to get to this. I want to create characters that are real and that they recognize. So, you know, they could go to some theater in LA and see themselves and be inspired in the same way.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's amazing. Unbelievable. Any last parting? I love doing this too. So Bree, what is something that you would like to share from your experience in doing this piece with our audience? I know it's loaded.
Yeah.
If it's just one thing you could tell someone that is just not, they're feeling unseen.
Well, the first thing I was going to say was civic engagement can happen at any level, and it doesn't take money to get involved. I also was a part of my student government in school. I was my student body president. I was on the Youth Police Advisory Council, the Superintendent Student Advisory Council, because they wanted to make sure that as we were going through, yes, it's fun to have like to get to plan the dances, but also how do you share and have that seat at the table for the things that are going to come down the line that might affect how someone gets put through a juvenile detention process, or how someone gets to like be rewarded, or how there's equity amongst scholarships, things like that. And across this last election, I think people really got to see how necessary it can be, not to just look at the top line choice of who's in the room, but also on each and every level down. So I know this story isn't about politics, but if you do take something about this idea of how to get involved in your community locally, that would be a good win. That'd be a nice win too.
Epic.
Yeah.
What about you, Joseph? What do you think?
Would you mind asking the question one more time? Just
yeah.
So I know I'm
just something that you'd like to give to our audience, just like a parting thought about, maybe it doesn't have to be anything too abstract, but maybe something, a theme in the show, or just something that you'd like to share that someone could take away.
I mean, I think the obvious one is, you know, for those that have faced trauma, that there is hope. You know, and there's a way to, I'm not a professional, so please don't follow my advice, but there are ways to acknowledge that and to grow beyond that, and there's a community for you. And I also think that there's a place. This is very much what I heard Bree saying is that there's a place for your voice to be heard.
So than ever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you guys so much for being here and for being such lovely interviewees, for your amazing work. Congratulations. You've got so many comments over here. Great work. Woo! Nailed it. All these people are just loving it. And I just want to congratulate you guys and thank everybody for watching. And hopefully we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brittany.
Of course. Anytime.
All right. We'll see you later.
Bye. Tell a friend.
Tell a friend. That's right.
The pro week.